I am firmly under the belief that very few people, if any, have ever actually experienced real love or know what it's actually like to experience true love.
And what is true love? What is your definition of real and true, or real or true love? Where does that even come from?
Hey everybody, it's Bianca.
Welcome back, Evolvers. It's Amelia. Bianca and I. We're going to riff on this one. We purposely did not, I would say, curate for this one, because she and I decided that we wanted to have a little bit of a more raw conversation on this topic. So if you're joining us for today's episode, we welcome you. If you're new to the Evolve Ventures podcast, we are so excited to have you with us. If you are returning, we're even more excited to have you return. You are the real OGs of this community. And with this episode, we hope that by the end, you walk away contemplating just one little seed or golden nugget that is planted from today's conversation. Because let's face it, love, real love, true love, there's so many different types of love that we experience in our lives as human beings. Hopefully, that is the case for you. And if you've clicked on this episode, you are someone who, like us, wants to contemplate this topic of what is true love, what is real love. And if you're on your evolve journey, you will inevitably get to this deep contemplation that Bianca and I will have today, which is, how do we really know when we are loved? How do we really, really, truly know in our heart of hearts that we have experienced true love? When does that happen? How does that happen? And what in particular is the dividing line that determines true love from fake love, true love from pretend love, true love from familial love? And what are the different types of love anyway? So, Bianca, where are you right now? Why don't you share with our listeners so that we give a little context?
If you guys are sensing a little bit of a dip in my energy, it's kind of intentional. I mean, not really, but like, I'm not hiding. And the reason I'm not hiding it is because Amelia and I have really done everything that we can to be as real and raw and authentic and vulnerable on this show as possible, because we sincerely believe that so many people, so many podcasters, so many influencers in the media and whatever, they're doing all of us such a massive disservice by putting on this show, by not being real people, by not showing what it's really like behind the scenes, and by not talking about like what really happens in their lives. Like, there's very few podcasters that you actually ever know anything real about them. And that's their choice, but we wanted to do it differently, because why would you listen to us if you didn't believe that we understood and that we were going through it too? And so when we are recording this, Thanksgiving was 2 days ago, and it brought up a lot. The holidays are hard for a lot of people, and I actually recommended this episode like 6 months ago, but we just haven't put it on the lineup. So where I was 6 months ago was radically different than where I am now. And to just give a little bit of context, there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes with me and my family, and the relationship I have to myself, and what I'm working through and navigating through, and just being a real person in the real world who struggles and who has real things going on. And the holidays always brings up so much, because I made the decision to not do the holidays with my family this year. And the reason I made that decision is actually because of this very question, and because of this very topic that we're going to get into. I don't think in my life, from family, from friends, from partners, aside from Amelia, because Amelia was the first time, Amelia and Alan, I think, were the first time that I ever actually knew what it meant to be loved. But before the two of them, I had never known what it was like to actually be loved because I never was. And that sounds crazy, right? Because if you ever saw my social media back in the day, you would have thought your family is so close. Your family is so, like, you guys are always together and always doing stuff, and you guys always look so great and blah, 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 blah. And you posted relationships all the time and you did all of these things. Like, I thought that wasn't real. And the truth of the matter is, no, it wasn't. And that's what most people are doing. Most people put on a really good show. And I've been contemplating a lot about this in relationships, in friendships, in my family. I was never actually loved. I don't actually know. Again, aside from Alan and Amelia, which I'm so unbelievably grateful for, I've never actually experienced love. And this isn't to talk about me. This is to talk about the principle underneath this. I think there's two reasons for that. I think number one, and I think this would be good for us to like riff on a little bit.
Oh, I have questions already.
I believe that there's two primary reasons why that has happened.
Okay.
Number one, my family growing up had no capacity to actually love me because they didn't love themselves. And you cannot unconditionally love someone for who they are if you are still running away from parts of yourself and you are still experiencing shame within yourself. Like, how could you possibly love a child who is basically going against all of your beliefs and everything you think about and everything you feel? Because that is what I did as a child. I wanted to be my own person.
Yeah.
My family wanted me to be a certain way. I wreaked havoc because I'm like, I want to be my own person. Like, stop trying to change me. And they didn't know how because they were battling their demons and their trauma and their shit, for lack of a better phrase. So I don't think they had any capacity to love me. I also believe that because of that, I never learned how to love myself. And so I made really, really poor choices about the people that I allowed into my life, which practically guaranteed I was never going to experience real love. Because the people that I allowed into my life also had no capacity to really love me. Because number one, I was hiding from myself and being this different version of myself because I was afraid of being vulnerable. And that attracted a certain type of person into my life. So they couldn't love me and I couldn't let myself be loved. And so that's where I would like to start on here. So the two reasons why I sincerely believe that I actually have never been loved is because number one, I never learned it growing up. I was never taught it. And then number two, because of that, I basically repeated that cycle over and over and over again in all of the dynamics that I had then found myself in up until recently.
Yeah. So first of all, I really appreciate your vulnerability. I think anyone that is emotionally mature will also appreciate your vulnerability. Anyone who is listening to this who is emotionally mature or has a personal connection to you, I think would have a really difficult time not personalizing this information. And I can empathize with that and I can have compassion for that, because whenever someone holds a belief that is contrary to yours, And this goes across all families. This is not just Lebanese culture. This is not just family in the United States. This is quite a cross-culture phenomena that is, and if you were to dig through the science and the research, well documented. When someone holds an alternative belief than your own, you can go into a plethora of responses to that.
Mm-hmm.
The most common response is to villainize the person who has an opposing belief than you. So now,
Yep,
I
been there.
say that not only for this conversation. We've all been there. I have too.
Yeah.
Like, we're human
Yeah.
beings. Think about it from a neuroscience standpoint. It is so much less expensive for your brain to inherently villainize the person that is saying something so different than what you believe, the narratives that you spin in your head all day or don't and just buy into unconsciously. It's so less cognitively expensive to just villainize that person. And more often than not, that is the case. And that's what makes it so hard becoming your own individual person, because you unconsciously know that you actually sharing your authentic truth will create some villainous narrative of you in someone else's head that you love and care about and want to actually have a relationship with, but feel completely helpless and hopeless to do so. Now, if you're someone that's listening to this, that's listening to this and you're resonating with this and you're recognizing that you care about to this concept of true love, you care about the person and your relationship with them more than your own feelings and your own beliefs, not necessarily at the expense of your belief systems, but in order to see that person and because you want them in your life, because you genuinely care about them and you genuinely love them, which is very difficult for people to do. To love, and this is where my first question to you comes, I believe that to love truly is to be able to do what is the opposite of what is cognitively expensive, meaning that you can hold someone in an endearment. You can hold someone with love and compassion and curiosity and interest for who they are, even though they directly oppose your belief systems, your views, your way of being, and find what makes them light up. And someone who truly loves anyone, from my perspective, is someone who has the capacity, number one, to do so, and number two, who cares so much about their capacity and how that relates to connection that they actually on their own accord try to increase that capacity to extend love in the way in which that person actually considers love. So if I were
100%.
to hear this and I would be contemplating 5 years ago, just being a fly in the wall, Bianca, I wouldn't ask myself the question, what are her love languages? Because that's the type of love that she would want to be connected into. But now from this adult perspective, with this level of development that I have, what is love and how you feel love is so different than almost everyone I know. And I've had the privilege to be able to understand that through your vulnerability. And so I obviously am so grateful to hear that you have felt genuine love from me, because I will never stop learning who you are, despite how that impacts me. Now, the question
never asked
becomes,
me to be. I need to make a comment on that.
Please.
You never asked me to be anything other than who I am.
Yeah, and more of who you are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
whatever that is.
I don't believe anybody has ever actually been loved, because there are so many conditions we put on other people in order to love them. And you were the first person I had ever met where I didn't have to be anything other than who I was. Like, you just saw me so deeply, and you wanted nothing from me but to get to be more of myself and the best version of myself, not a different version, the best version of me. And I had never experienced that before. The only person who did that same thing was Alan.
Yeah.
Like, you guys literally taught me what it was like to experience unconditional love, or as close to it as humanly possible. And I will die on this hill. I don't believe almost anybody has ever experienced that, because there is almost nobody who can get past their own biases, beliefs, feelings, and judgments,
Yeah.
and see another person just as they are and want nothing from them other than just to be all of who they are, and to be able to love them and support them in that.
Yeah. It is genuinely one of the most challenging things, right? Because it's not just like you want to do that. Like, it actually, you have your neurochemical, like you have your, like the biggest organ trying to save and consolidate resources. It's actually like, because you mentioned the first thing, I wrote them down, the capacity, right? Like, when we talk about that, I really want to expand that out into people's awareness, because if you have a worse sleep today, you have less capacity to love yourself and the people around you. And what does that actually translate to? However you demonstrate love as a verb. Because we all know that love, yes, is this energy, this essence, but it's also the compound effect of behaviors. Love is a verb. It's what you do and it's what you don't do. It's also the energy that exists in between those two diametric opposites. And so to that end, it is when you are consistently becoming less of who you could be, you're having less and less capacity to give love, which is an active garden to nourish to other people. So my first question to you, because it's very weird from my perspective to hear that, and I want you and everyone that's listening to that to know, because I grew like, I don't understand a world where you just genuinely want to give love to everyone, and you genuinely want to see someone, whoever it is in front of you, just be the best version of themselves, whatever that is, whatever they choose. Like, I cannot comprehend ever not being that, because that's all of me. That's just who I am.
That's who you've always been. That's why people gravitate toward you in the way that they do.
And I now realize that. So to that end, what I think is really interesting about that kind of is a paradox from my perspective, because it's like, I actually do believe that there's conditions to love. I don't believe in unconditional love, which I think is wild. So like, true love actually has a knowing of not the quote unquote limits, but the zones, I will call them, of capacity and how to communicate when you are not able to give the level of capacity, and you understand expectation, you understand human beings, and you understand habituation, you understand psychology and neuroscience and how the human body works and how love works. You also understand that love is chemistry. And no, I'm not just talking about, the oh, I feel the chemistry between us. Like, no, like the actual molecules of that. So Bianca, what's your definition of true love, or what is your current definition of true love, given where you are in your journey right now?
I just want to make a comment about something that you said. I don't believe in unconditional love either. I don't think, like, there's always conditions, but what are those conditions?
Because and who do they benefit?
Our 100%. Our love is 100% conditional. 100%. It is. Yeah. But what are the conditions? The conditions that you have set are for me to continue to be the best person that I can be, that 100%. I can be. Not that you believe I need to be, but like me continuing to do the things to be the best version of myself that I can be. There's very few people who set
Mhm.
those conditions. Most of the conditions that people set on another person are to benefit the person setting the condition. So growing up in my home, the condition was look a certain way, act a certain way, be a certain way, present yourself in a certain way. And they sincerely, in their heart of hearts, believed that it was for me. But if they
Yeah.
genuinely heard what I was saying, it wasn't for
Mhm.
me. It
Yeah.
was 100% their trauma response. And if I break down all of the conditions that you have set on our relationship, it doesn't benefit you. It doesn't, because you're not looking for me to be a certain way so that you're okay. Because
Yeah.
your okayness is not based on me. Because
Facts.
you are so regulated and so grounded in yourself that you don't need me to be a certain way for you to be okay or for you to feel enough. Now, that's
Yeah.
not to say that we don't impact each other. If I started acting a fool, that's obviously going to impact you. But like,
But it
you,
wouldn't change like the I see it as like a thread of love. It's just a continuum. That'll never stop. Like there's people that have come in and out of my life and I still have so much love for them and I still have that desire for them that they find
yeah,
everything that life has meant like has in store for them and they find every bit and piece of part of them to come whole and to live the most fulfilling life that they possibly can within their skin within this lifetime. Like I genuinely have so much of that for people, even people who have like been fucking horrible to me. Horrible to me.
you've experienced more abuse in relationships than almost anybody I know because you love so deeply. People feel that and they're like, what the hell is this? And then they try to
Yeah.
like siphon it away from everybody else and they start doing wild shit. It's insane. But it's
Yeah. I'd rather be on this end though. For sure.
yeah,
Back to that question.
back to your question. I believe that true love is sincerely wanting the person to live the life that they believe is best for them. And as long as that is actually good for them and actually like not from trauma, not from abuse, not from harm, not from distortion, but
Mm-hmm.
is that person has a clear idea in their head about the person that they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Unconditional love and true love, like as close to unconditional as possible, is you giving that person the space, the peace, the love, and the support to be that.
Mm-hmm.
And no, we are not saying, and I'm going to say some harsh words right now, this is not saying like, let a pedophile be a pedophile because that's who they want to be. Like, no, that's
Yeah, there's
trauma.
mm,
That's like severe mental illness. Like, that's not what I'm saying. Because a lot of people will hear that and be like, oh, well, people can just
yeah,
be
we're the
whatever they
ones.
want.
Right.
No, it's
No.
not what we're saying. What I said
Harm.
was very, very direct.
Mm-hmm.
As long as that is coming from that person's true self and it is in the direction of them being the best version of themselves possible, that they, from a clear, conscious space, is making the decision. That is love. Letting that person be.
Evolve community. Happy day. I hope you're doing well, and I am hoping that you're enjoying this episode. We're so grateful to have you as a listener. And I want to share a win, a community win with you because it's so exciting and it's something that I care deeply about that I want to make sure definitely goes recognized. So every single year, Bianca, myself, Alan, we all get together and we create something again and again. And that's something that's so special, so meaningful for us and the communities that we serve is Books for Babes, which is our annual philanthropic event where we raise funds for underprivileged youth, children, and organizations so that we can help buy books and put them in the hands of children who, during the holiday seasons, don't have things coming into them. And I want to give a shout out to Beth Palmieri. Shout out to you if you're listening. You have been a huge donor and a huge supporter of Books for Babes every single year. And before we have even published Books for Babes, I'm seeing your incredibly generous donation coming through. So thank you so much to not only Beth, you rock, but also all of the donors in years past. This has been a annual fundraiser that we've been doing for now 5 years, which is just absolutely incredible. And I have some stats written down that I want to share with each and every one of you that goes to show that Evolve is not just a podcast. We go so above and beyond, and we try to make sure that everything that we do has intention behind it. And if you are listening to us, if you have engaged in our community, if you have engaged in our services, a portion of that always goes back to giving back to our communities at a very meaningful and important level. So in the last 5 years, we've raised cumulatively over $5,500. We've distributed over 2,200 books. And on average, we impact per year 1,300 children, family, and youth organizations. And that is something certainly worth celebrating. If you or your organization, your team, your business, or you on a heart solo level want to give back to this meaningful and important cause, please click the link in the show notes and you will be able to do so. And thank you so much to all of our donors. This has been such a meaningful journey, and we're so grateful to have you along with us.
I do not believe that the majority of human beings have the capacity for that, because most people are not living from a sense of true self.
Yeah.
Most people are not living from a deeply grounded, authentic, true self-centered space. So we need other people to be a certain way, look a certain way, act a certain way, respond in a certain way, engage in a certain way in order for that to maintain and in order for the relationship to sustain. So like you and I'll use this personal example. Friendships for me, I do really want and like and need more quality time spent together and communication and things like that, right?
Yep.
But Amelia is not that person. Amelia at this stage of her life is not in a space where she can do that, because her goals and her dreams and what she is doing in her life it requires so much of her that she does not have the capacity for that. I am okay with that because I love her so much, and because I care so deeply about her, and because I want her to be able to do what is deeply meaningful for her, which I know is going to make this world a wildly better place. It would be selfish of me to then put conditions and say, well, then you're a bad friend because I need you to text me more. It's like, then you don't love her because you don't see her. You don't see why she's doing what she's doing. You don't see, what she's like really aiming toward. Because if you really loved her, you would understand that.
Whoa. And from my experience, like I've shared this with you privately behind the scenes, like no one's like, how to know if you've really ever been loved. Like what you just described, you see into me, you see who I am at the core, and not just who I am, but who I'm aspiring to be, which that pursuit is so meaningful to me. And you and I both come from a space of meaning and wanting to make life more meaningful. And that's something that your relationships have failed to understand about you. You are a meaning driven person who cares deeply about deep conversations, who cares deeply about your work that you're doing in the world with human beings. And unfortunately, they've failed to see how incredible of a human being you are. And I'm not saying that'll always be the case. I sure as hell hope not. It's a privilege to see you on such a deep level, and anyone who doesn't is wildly missing out. But that's on them, at the end of the day. Yeah.
Thank you.
And just like, so to that end, to anyone that's listening to this, how do you know if you've ever really been loved? Ask yourself the question, is the love that you have received consistent in the small ways that are meaningful for you? Is the love that you're feeling contingent upon someone doing something for you because you're coming from a space of need? Which, again, there's nothing wrong being like having needs. That's actually a really important thing to recognize and celebrate, right? That's what makes you human. But I find, this topic, I feel like we need to also do justice, because there's so many ways in which love has really been honestly effed up and distorted in so many
100%.
ways. And
100%.
especially for the trauma survivors that listen to our podcast and connect with us, love has come in a form of transaction and in a form of, if you perform this way, then I will love you. Or if you concede and comply with the collusion of our families, then we will give you love. Then we will give you belonging. Then we will give you attention. Then we will give you significance. Yeah. And I just feel so compelled to also name something that you mentioned earlier, which is, and I wrote down the first one, family having capacity. I mentioned the Care Star. I'm going to put the digital asset of a Care Star within the show notes, and I encourage anyone who's listening to this to click on that, because there's 5 C's that you can rate 0 to 10. How much capacity does someone actually really have to be able to extend to you the love that you are struggling to receive from that person? And oftentimes we forget we suck as human beings at actually increasing our capacity. Literally, we effing suck at it.
Yeah.
How many people are like so excited to increase their capacity, to increase their sleep, to increase their fitness zone, like to increase everything that makes them more of them? Honestly, not many people. We are Evolve Ventures Technologies, and the amount of people who are actually on their own accord trying to increase their capacity, we are in an ecosystem of people who are trying to do that. And yet all of us are still struggling. That's a tiny quote unquote subset of the bigger world at large, right? So the thing that I wanted to reference is the repetition compulsion. When you have learned to accept the shreds of what your family has told you is love. Oh, we loved you. Like, we put a roof over your head. We did this. We did that. We did this. My goodness. Let's have an honest conversation about that. I've been doing research around actually our parents' generation, because I'm so sick of the conversation that I am receiving and dancing around with clients about parents having done enough and doing the best that they could and saying, well, we didn't have Google back then. That is a lame ass excuse. And it is complete displacement of taking ownership over the fact that in that time frame, I'm talking the 60s, between the 50s and the 70s, that is one of the lamest and inexcusable defensive mechanisms for taking full accountability of the lack of attempts to go to your public library, to turn on PBS, to turn on the radio, to read the pamphlets from the child providers and the doctors at the time. And I've been doing research on research about how accurate or how widely accessible was actual science and actual developmental science when it comes to what a child actually needs. And the research is showing, but has definitely been hidden in many, many meta-analysis of how widely distributed information for high quality parenting, for high quality giving of love, beyond just putting a roof over your child's head, beyond just putting clothes on their back. And so I'm sick of that narrative being passed around by parents who are emotionally immature, but fail to acknowledge it, and who are displacing that blame onto their children, who are now millennials, who are now facing this question and literally searching for answers beyond their own bodily knowing if they've ever been loved. And it's a sad day that we even have to do a podcast on this. because of the fact that there are so many people out there that are questioning this from the get. Now, I'm not here to shame, because I recognize that probably just cultivated a shame trigger in many people. But at the end of the day, we need to do better, because if we're asking this question, then that is a sufficient demand and supply curve that is not where it needs to be. There's sufficient demand for the question to know how, if you really have been loved, which basic economics tell you that there is a wild lack of supply of knowing, full body knowing that you are loved for who you are without having to do anything, be anyone other than who you actually are. And I want us to contemplate that. And as we close out this episode, the repetition compulsion of what we had to tolerate in order to survive, that then gets acted out. And so anyone that's ever asked this question, if you are a victim of, or you have been someone who has been victimized from a actual, like, really, really loving family or relationships or friendships or whatnot, you don't have to become a long-standing victim of this. You actually can do things to help yourself recognize. Like for me, it's been really helpful to see the research so that you're not just constantly gaslighting yourself and telling yourself that I'm the problem. Even though per our episode that we dropped, it will have been 459, what your family system role says about you, despite the role that you've taken on as a result of the family narratives and the collusion that families have perpetuated. You're not likely the problem. It does not start with you. You are not the one that chose to be conceived. And you have the ability to do it differently by owning the truth that's within you, and knowing what specifically makes you feel love, right? So Bianca is a great example of having gone through that journey of understanding what actually makes her feel loved. And based on her own definition, when she looks back, no, that might have been love given by someone in their minds, but that did not meet my threshold of love. And that is absolutely okay. That is absolutely okay for you and everyone else to acknowledge that looking back, no, that actually wasn't love. That was their version of love, but that was really never love for me. And I think that when we can live in a world where parents, or rather young adults who chose to have children, they can have an honest, humble, ownership-taking conversation with their well-developed children who are now adults, far surpassing them likely in many ways, psychologically, emotionally, developmentally, cognitively, intellectually, you name it, right? When we can live in a world where those conversations can be had and ownership and apology can actually be taken, hopefully you'll never have to ask that question again. So, Bianca, anything we need to add to this dialogue?
Yeah, just one final point I want to make. So I said there was 2 reasons why I was never able to experience love. One of them was because of what I learned. The second one was my response to that. So because I had never experienced love, because I never knew what that felt like, I never held a standard to be loved in that way. But I also never could receive it. So like I could have had friends and partners and whatnot, and I was in no capacity and of my own accord to be able to allow it or receive it. And that's also what a lot of people end up experiencing. And a lot of my clients will say the same exact thing. I don't know how to let somebody love me. I have no idea how to let somebody love me. Yeah, because you've never been loved. You've never had someone who came into your life. You, as a child, you were never, ever told that you were deserving of love as you are. And so what do we do when that happens? We start doing weird stuff. Same.
Yeah.
I made a lot of mistakes. I did a lot of things that I wish I didn't do. And now I'm in my 30s trying to learn how to love myself. and how to heal the relationship that I have with myself, and how to let good people into my life who will love me, and how to set the hardest boundaries possible with those who can and will not. It has to start with you first. I firmly believe the quote, if you can't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love somebody else? I am a firm believer of that. And the please correct me if I'm wrong, but the data supports it. If I didn't have a better relationship with me, I could not love you, because I would need you to be a certain way in order for us to have a relationship. Like, I couldn't just accept you. I would need you to be a certain way for me to feel okay.
I agree with you for the most part. If we study, one of the things that is coming to mind, the only reason why I don't like full body say 100% is because when we start to study, like, for example, one of the, when on this topic of love, where some of my studies in the past have taken me is like the different types of love. And I think it's important to mention those. So I'll also put a digital asset in there. You know, studying ancient Greeks and ancient Romans was one of my favorite times in history because of the intellectual expansion that occurred there and the contemplation. And one of the yields of that, the bearing of the fruits in that era, if you will, obviously not the only thing, so I will not just give them the credit, right? But is the different types of love, right? And you can go of, okay, I love this person in the, let's say, long-lasting, committed type of love, which is also referred to as pragma. And again, click that digital asset to kind of pop this up. But how much of that is at the expense of maybe you? Right? The maybe philia, which is the friendship type of love. So I think that more often than not, my answer is yes to agree with you, but we're not expanding our different types of love out. Usually we're just trying to chase one narrow version of love. That might be deep friendship. That might be familial love, which is storge, I believe. That self-love is what you're talking about, which is referred to as that, I believe it's PHILATIA, philotia, I think is how you pronounce it. I never cared more about pronunciation than I did about reading. Anyways, long story short, the more you do love yourself, I do believe in, which is where I can agree with you, of we have more capacity. Because it's like exploring the depths of the ocean. How can you really appreciate the ocean if you've only spent your entire time studying just the first 10 feet from the surface? You don't have enough capacity to appreciate the thousands of feet below and all the creatures there. I do believe relationships are very similar to that concept. You can love someone to the extent that you love yourself, yes, but it's only in one narrow aspect. And it's not a holistic ripple effect of multiple different types of love that are and have so much more underneath the first level and the first layer of love. So that's the only thing that I would add to that.
Perfect. Yeah.
So for our listeners, I think one thing in closing, at least from me, how to know if you've ever truly been loved, I would ask you, or I would have you encourage, or I would encourage you to ask yourself, what are the small, seemingly insignificant ways that have sustained over time? Because more often than not, true love, real love, we look for these big magical moments, especially now more than ever with like stupid TV shows that romanticize love, right? And I'm talking about that intimacy type of love, that eros, right? But like when we really look at love in a nutshell, regardless of what type of love, agape, storge, philia, eros, ludus, it's the sustained, small, almost imperceptible compound effects of the representation of love. That, I think, when we go back down to the sustainability, it's about the little tiny things that really do see you and see into you. that show what true love and real love really is. So whether it be your family, whether it be your friends, whether it be someone you've met in this journey, you can look at it from that lens.
I think the way to get started, and this is what I did, was actually start to identify, what does love mean to you? And then how well have you been advocating for that? First with yourself. First with yourself. I did not treat myself well. So why would I ask anyone else to? I literally couldn't. I wasn't treating myself well at all. So I didn't believe that I could ask someone else to do it too. So
Fair.
What does love mean to you? What makes you feel loved in every regard? And then how can you start self-advocating for it within yourself? And then how do you start advocating for it with others? The people who sincerely love you, it's not that they're not going to have a hard time, it's that they're willing to try. They're willing to do it because they actually care about you. They want you in their life, not this version of you that benefits them and that doesn't challenge them to be different than who they are.
I love that. They're willing to try and try again and again and again until they get it right, which requires an open feedback loop. And that is something that how you can tell and how you know if you've never really been loved, just look at that feedback loop. Someone is unwilling and someone will stop to get it right because, and again, a lot of what might be contributing to that is their capacity, right? They might be so wrapped up in their own shame and their own narratives that they're like, you know what? Honestly, I've reached my limits and that's okay. But I think to that point, Bianca, it helps us all reflect on the fact that everyone has their own definition of love. And I think as a humble student of love, I think it's also really important that we also recognize that, which inherently humbles us to recognize that we don't know what the hell XYZ person's definition of love is. And the last thing, uncomfortable truth, the way people treat you is a reflection of them. The way you tolerate it is a reflection of you.
That was fire.
So in closing, my episode suggestion is a powerful way to never be manipulated again. Episode number 398. Bianca Thomas, thank you for such a powerful conversation. What are your closing thoughts and episode suggestion?
What you said was perfect. People treat you the way that you tolerate. And based on this level of self-worth, self-love, self-belief, self-efficacy that you have within yourself. In my later years, I was treated like crap because I tolerated it, because I didn't have boundaries. I didn't have self-worth. And you will never see that happen with me again. And I have you to thank for so much of that. So thank you.
You are so welcome. And I have all of the researchers that have had the courage and the bravery to bring to light the truths, the uncomfortable truths that no one wants to look at when it comes to this topic that we are all deeply impacted by.
Yeah. Before I give my episode suggestion, Amelia gives this type of love to her clients just as much as her friends and her family. You will never find a better clinician than her. You will never find a better coach than her. And I aspire to be as good of a clinician as you someday, even a fraction of that. So if anyone is looking for someone in their corner to sincerely, just unconditionally love them and help them and support them into being the best version of themselves, reach out to Amelia. She is actively taking clients. My caseload is about to be full. She will change your life just like she has changed mine. So reach out. You can reach out to me or you can reach out to her. We will get you started. And my episode suggestion is 408, The Paradox of Self-Love.
Nice.
This was a heavy episode. Take some time, give some love to yourself after listening to this. And we'll see you all next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.